Hello my little flowers. How have you guys been? I've been getting a lot of comments recently, just feeling like you guys are really opening up to me and to each other, and I love that because when I'm just making a video about like my worst ever blood sugar or something like that, and then you guys start commenting your stories, I love reading through them, going through all of them. Even if I don't respond right away or give it a thumbs up or whatever, I usually do read it and just appreciate it. So thank you for that. Please continue to do that. Usually when I have video ideas, I put them in my phone, and this can be when I'm out with my friends or I'm just maybe waking up at like 3 in the morning or something. So sometimes I'm kind of putting them in there, but then later I don't remember where the idea came from or what I even meant by it. But I was going through my notes and I had put in here that I wanted to do a video about diabetes and confidence, and I'm not really sure what I meant by that, but I'm gonna just try to wing it because I have a few ideas of maybe what I was trying to say. I feel like my original idea was probably cooler, but I want to get this out. So recently I read something online, and I read a lot of these stories because I follow like the diabetes cure, I don't know what all the names are, like the Cure Alliance, a Cure for Diabetes, a Diabetes Ribbon, like all of those Facebook pages, and usually they have different stories that people submit talking about either themselves being diagnosed or their struggles or someone that they love. And I read this really awful story about this sister who said that her brother died because he was ashamed of his diabetes. So essentially in the story, if I'm remembering correctly, he was ashamed that he needed injections or that he even needed help, I guess. And I don't know if that's just a thing where he felt like his body had failed him and it wasn't fair. And he felt embarrassed that he was one of those people that was chosen to have a disease. I'm not really sure exactly what was going on in his head, but I guess he was ashamed of himself, and so he stopped taking care of himself, and as a result he died. This makes me so incredibly sad because I think a huge thing that I'm trying to do on my channel is make you guys realize that, hey, it's not your fault that you have this disease, and it's just something we gotta work with, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about, obviously, because we can't help it. I mean, being embarrassed about things that you can't help, there's just no point in it, and especially something like diabetes. It's a very sad, frustrating thing to deal with, but I don't ever want you guys to feel like you can't talk about it because you're embarrassed. Maybe you don't want to talk about it because you're frustrated with certain things that are going on in your life, or you don't feel like having to constantly correct people's misconceptions about what diabetes is, and if that's the case, I totally understand. But just to not talk about it because you feel like there's something wrong with you that you should hide, it's just something I never want you guys to ever have to feel. I don't think I ever really felt this way. I think more than anything I just was afraid to have people's pity, because if you say that you're diabetic, it's always a little bit of an awkward moment afterwards. You don't know how they're going to respond, if they're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, or, you know, that really annoying thing where they say that their grandma has it or that they know someone who lost a limb or died from it. But usually there's that kind of like, I don't know how they're going to respond. Are they going to be like, oh my god, that sucks, I'm so sorry? And so it can be a little bit like, I don't want to say embarrassing, but I guess it is slightly like embarrassing when you have to tell somebody for whatever reason. And I am getting a lot better at this because now that I'm making these videos, then people ask me, you know, like, what is one of your hobbies? And I say, well, I make these videos on YouTube. And they obviously ask, well, what are your videos about? And I say, well, I have type 1 diabetes, so I make videos talking about that and trying to help other people with it. So there's always that, that's so cool, or that's really like brave of you, or like, what is diabetes, you know? Like, there's just a lot of explanation that has to happen, and I deal with that all the time. So to that person's family, like, I'm just sending a lot of love. I don't know if they're watching this. I don't know who they are and what their names are or anything. That story was probably one of the saddest that I had ever read. There are other stories where people say that like their children or someone that they know's child died from diabetes because their parents didn't believe in like Western medicine and taking insulin and stuff, and I think that is ridiculous because I know it'd be nice if we could find some sort of like spiritual way to heal ourselves, and we could, if you do have some sort of connection with God, if you felt like you could heal yourself through God or through your spiritual beliefs. But I think right now the best we have is just pure and simple insulin, because that is exactly what we are missing physically in our bodies. And so if we have something that's been developed by scientists to help us survive, I see no reason why we shouldn't do that, especially when it's so effective. And for someone to decide that for their child who can't even decide for themselves is just horrifying. And so God bless, you know, the children who have to deal with that, because I have read quite a few stories like that as well. So this is about diabetes and confidence, but I'm just starting to think about all of the different stories I've read and how much they differ from my story, simply because people don't seem to understand, and that makes me sad. So I didn't intend for this to be like a sad video. I just wanted to get that out, and yeah, I guess on to the next video. I love you, little flowers. Keep continuing to subscribe if you haven't, and continue to like my videos if you liked them.